Memes is asking, what's the best way to get folks with similar ideas to collaborate? Well, there's in the world at large and there's within a company, for example. I would say, it's a funny thing in the world at large. For example, in the intellectual kind of world, sometimes people who are very closely aligned almost repel each other and they sort of see themselves as competitors because they're sort of close, but one's going to win and one's not going to win type thing. And sometimes they're like, hey, let's chat about this, let's all be friends type thing. How does one get to that let's all be friends? I think there's a certain amount of the ecosystem around what's going on that affects whether it's the let's all be friends or let's compete with each other type thing. I think if I look at fields that I've known, there have been fields that have been very collaborative and there have been fields that have been very cutthroat. And what's the difference between these? I would say the collaborative ones tend to be the ones where it's a very wide open field, where there's a lot to do and not very many people in it. The cutthroat ones, and it's probably not surprising, are ones where there's perceived to be only a very narrow set of things one can do, and everybody's rushing to get to be the one who gets to do that particular thing. And I think that's, in general, the kind of having when people are going to do things together, sometimes they all are going for the same goal. Sometimes they'll do a thing together, but they'll each get a different thing out of it. Let's say people are collaborating on some project. Somebody wants to be the person in charge managing the project. Somebody else wants to be the programmer. They all got their various niches and they're all happily working in those niches. Or everybody is like so keen together on getting to the final goal that sort of pulls them through. I think I have to say my own experience with sort of collaborative projects, and maybe this is a piece of egotism or something on my part, is somebody always has to be in charge. And usually with things I'm dealing with, I'm the one who ends up being in charge. Not necessarily because I want to be, but because somehow I'm used to being in charge and I know a certain amount about being in charge, and I get frustrated with seeing nobody in charge, and so I wind up being in charge, so to speak. But I think most things end up working better if it has, if there's definite leadership, usually one person, maybe two, but not a whole committee of people. I think in terms of people working on sort of related things, I would say that one of my important functions, CEOing our company, is just pointing out, I'm the node on the tree to which everything else supposedly connects. And so that means that I have some idea what all the different parts of the company are doing. And it's a regular thing. I mean, it happens pretty much every day that I'm saying to somebody, they're saying, we're doing this. And I'm saying, have you talked to or looked at this other thing that somebody else is doing? Being the connector, so to speak, bringing together these different pieces that are similar. And I would say in science also, and in technology for that matter, because I have a pretty large network of people and things that I know, I've often found myself in the position of being, oh, you should talk to so-and-so, or you should look at this thing, being the connector, so to speak. And I would say that generally that's a very valuable thing to be. And what ends up happening, not every time when I say, go talk to this person, do they come back saying, yeah, we figured out something great to do together. But I would say, I don't know if I'm to put a number on it, I would say it's a solid half the time I'll introduce people, they'll end up something definite will end up coming out of it. And that seems to be sort of that step one in making collaborative things happen. I mean, within a company, you can have this situation where there are 3 parallel projects running that are all basically the same thing or should be cooperating and nobody knows it. And that's an issue of management structure. I mean, for example, in our company, something I've been pushing for hard for many years, and we're finally pretty good shape on it, is this thing we call the global project list, which is just a list of the few hundred projects that are project-like things that we're doing. And as you look at that project list, it becomes fairly clear that sort of there's this thing here and that thing there, and they're really the same thing. We also have a process list of things that are ongoing. I mean, projects, as far as I'm concerned, are beginning, middle, end type activities. Processes are never-ending things that keep on going, whether it's maintaining a piece of code, doing events every so often, whatever else it is. Those are processes, as opposed to a project where there'll come a moment where it's finished, tied in a bow, have the wrap party, we're done. It goes into there's a process perhaps of maintaining it, but the project is done. I would say an interesting problem in our company is we have lots of groups in the company, and we had previously sort of organized our global project list according to the groups that we have. This turns out not to work perfectly because a lot of non-trivial projects span many groups. And it's kind of like, who really owns this project? Oh, it's in this group, or you don't even find it because it's in that subsection of the notebook that's about that particular group, and we don't even notice it. So we're kind of refactoring that right now. And maybe what will end up happening is when projects are big enough and turn into processes, they will define new groups. So something that was a cross-group type thing, because it was being sort of put together to make a project, if it's a big enough thing, that sort of cross-group thing will just spawn its own group. And I think we'll end up seeing that happen a bunch.